All right, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and at least go through some of the before we start stuff, and then if we have anybody join us in the next couple minutes, they'll realize what's happening. So, if you're here for the virtual session on an exploration workshop, identifying your career and major, you're in the right spot. If not, stick around. Hopefully, you'll get something out of this as well. So before we start, this is what we're going to do. I want to take just a couple notes real quick, or make a couple notes. The webinar is being recorded so that we can share this with others later. So just be aware of that. Everyone is muted and will remain muted. However, if you do have questions, the chat feature is on, and please use that to ask questions. We have another professional staff member that is keeping an eye on that chat. And so we'll make sure your questions are addressed. And then additionally, your video is off as well, and can remain off, will remain off, as it won't be necessary to the experience. And then if you are intending to receive class credit for attending today's session, please be sure to use your full name when you sign in so that it's displayed in the chat room as well as on your screen. And if for some reason you logged in without using your full name, you can make an edit to that in the settings there. So, or if for some reason you need to, you could share after the fact, but please try to use that full name. All right, for the sake of time, I will go ahead and move into what we'll be talking about today. This is me, Brent McLemore. So I'm an assistant director for experiential learning and a career coach at our career center here at Loyola University, New Orleans. And what we're going to be covering today, we're going to talk about the exploration equation. This is really an opportunity to strategize a little bit. It's a way of framing up different scenarios that you might find yourself in along your exploration journey, regardless of where you're at in that journey. And hopefully being able to sort of discern and think critically about the place that you find yourself and the places that you want to find yourself, where you want to go with your career. We're also going to talk about resources that are available to you to help you as you continue to explore what's next. And then we'll have a Q&A there at the end. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into the exploration equation in search of destiny. I know that sounds very big and epic, and in many ways it is, but we'll get into that a little bit more. So what are the components of the exploration equation? The exploration equation really consists of three things: ability, desire, and opportunity. So I want to take a moment to define those. Defining ability. So you have this basic idea or concept of ability, and it's pretty simple. It's the quality or state of being able. And then you have a more developed idea or concept, which is being not just being able to do something, but doing something very well, a competence in doing something. And then you have this causality concept, or this idea of, okay, is this an ability that is a natural ability, a natural aptitude that I have, a gift or a talent, or is this a acquired proficiency, a skill that I have developed over time? And really, you can find yourself with any sorts of, with all of these types of abilities. And really what we're going to be looking at is, what are your abilities? What are the abilities you need? And how can you use those abilities moving forward? Really, at this time, I want to go ahead and take just a moment to give you a chance to write down your abilities. I want you to actually create two lists, if you will, a list of abilities that you have, either gifts, talents, and or skills that you have that are things that you can do and do well, or ones that you're continuing to work on and develop. I want that to be one list. And then I also want you to create a list right now of abilities that you need in order to pursue the career that you're interested in, or pursue the path, go down that path that you're looking to go down. And so again, two lists: a list of abilities that you possess. These are gifts, talents, and or skills that you have. And then a list of those that you need. And there may be some overlap in your list, and there may be some on either list that don't find themselves on the other, and that's fine. I just want you to take just a couple minutes here to make those lists. Okay. So also want to talk about desire. So we're going to define desire. This is your general definition of desire: a conscious impulse towards something that promises enjoyment or satisfaction in its attainment. Uh, like any other desire, professional desire that you have, a vocational desire that you have, fits in this definition. It's this idea that you do have a conscious impulse. There is this idea, this feeling that you have that pulls you towards something that you feel like promises some measure of enjoyment or pleasure or some degree of satisfaction and fulfillment and once it's attained. And that's really the definition we're working with. This is the type of desire that we're looking for as we pursue our careers. And I want you to take this time to write down what desires you do have. What are your desires as they relate to work? Just one list here, a list of your desires as they relate to work. So just take a minute to do that, please. You can think about these as um, the type of work you want to do. You can think about these as where that work could be, um, with whom that work could be, what organization, employer you would want that work to be with. Whatever desires you have as they relate to work, I want you to make a list of those. Could even be what you want your work to be about, not just where or how, but why and what type. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move along. Please continue to write if you are doing so. I'm going to take a moment here to also define opportunity. So there's a couple of different ideas of opportunity that we're going to discuss or that will come up as we are moving through the equation. You have this situational idea of opportunity, which is a favorable juncture of circumstances. So things have kind of fallen into place. Maybe it's happenstance. Things have just happened to come together in such a way that here is an opportunity that you can take advantage of. And then there's also this intentional, more intentional idea of opportunity where you're looking to see what are what are the chances of advancement or progress with a particular opportunity or with a particular circumstance. If I do take this path, where will it lead? What opportunity is along this path? And so it's a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more intentional. And so there is overlap between both this situational and intentional idea and type of opportunity. But we'll move through those, and you can, even in your own life, see where there are certain things that you have been able to, where you have been able to create certain opportunities, and you've taken the right kind of steps to create that. And then there are opportunities in your life that just sort of happen that you didn't necessarily see coming. And so we'll discuss both of those. I do want to take another moment here just to write down opportunities that you're looking for. So what are the opportunities that you're looking for as it relates to your career? What are the things that what are the opportunities that you need along your path, and what opportunities are you attempting to create, and maybe even some of those that are kind of outside of your control. So what are those opportunities that you're looking for and that you need as you continue to look to see what's next for you? Okay. So whether you are preparing to graduate and you're looking at what's next in terms of, hey, these are the career options I have, these are the steps I want to take as I look for work, as I try to find those opportunities that relate to the careers I'm interested in, or the career I'm interested in, or whether you're early on in this journey and you're still thinking about um, what is the major that's going to allow me to take those initial steps toward the career I want. Regardless, hopefully you'll find that the scenarios we're about to walk through are applicable even beyond your degree, the attainment of your degree. You'll find hopefully that the scenarios that we're about to walk through will be useful as you continue to uh, learn more about the type of work you want to do and the career that you want for yourself. So let's go ahead and move into these scenarios real quick. So when you have ability and opportunity, so you have the ability to do something and you have the opportunity to do it, but it is missing uh, desire, then what you find yourself facing often is a task. This is something that feels like a task, a joyless chore to be completed. Many of you may be feeling that way in terms of your coursework right now. Some of you may find that it seems that it just cannot get the want to do some of the things that you need to do for your courses. Of course, I would encourage you to push through that and really with a task, it is about pushing through. It's about persevering. Even without desire, you can still accomplish something and accomplish something well. It doesn't mean you don't have to not try. It just means that you have to push through and do it regardless. But you certainly don't want the work that you do by and large to feel like a task. Every job, even the perfect job, will have moments that feels like this. There will be things associated with it that where you think, oh, this is just a task. This is something I have to move through to get to the stuff that I like to do. And that's completely fine and normal. But you certainly want to, as you think about what you're going to spend most of your time doing, you certainly don't want it to be all associated with that feeling of being a task. And it really is more about the way you feel about the job before you, and less about the job itself. There are all sorts of jobs out there and thousands of types of jobs out there. And there are people who look at some of those jobs that generally are maybe seen as just very task heavy, very boring, very unadventurous and unappealing kind of jobs that other people find incredibly satisfying. It's not just attached to them. This is something where they do look at that work and get a sense of desire, a sense of, yes, I want to do this and enjoy doing this. And so it's, again, less about the type of work and the task before you, much more so about the way you feel about that job. All right. I want to move to ability and desire now. So I want you to think about, even as it relates to the task, I want you to think about a few things that you might think of as task. And then I want us to talk about ability plus desire, but we're missing opportunity here. And so without opportunity, what we find in this scenario is momentum. And with momentum, it's really about actively waiting and moving toward the work you want to do. Okay, so now you can do it. You know that you can do it. You can do it well. You have the desire to do it. It's just that you don't have the opportunity to do it for whatever the reason may be. And there's a lot of reasons out there as to why we might not be able to do the work we want to do. But you can, in that place, still build momentum, actively waiting. So even though, again, you're setting still, you can be gaining momentum and prepare for that moment, right? So that's really what it is. And I've got this silhouette here of a fireman. So somebody who is a firefighter, for example, they have a job that a lot of it may feel like waiting. On a slow day, they may just be waiting, and it may feel like they're not doing their job because there's no fire to put out, right? But then the fire comes along and they are ready for that moment, and they go to that moment and put everything that they have into that moment in order to do their job. But it's not just their job to put out the fire. Everything before that moment is also still part of that process. And so they're preparing for that moment. And we can do that through developing those abilities that we have. We can use the moment, the time that we have that feels like maybe we're sitting still, or maybe even that feels like we're stuck somewhere. We can use that time to build build our abilities out, right? We can continue to hone our abilities, our gifts, our talents, our skills. We can prepare for that moment and practice at getting better at being able to do the things that we want to do, so that when the moment comes for us to be able to do those things, we do it very well. And so really, in this time, you want to think about, if you don't have the opportunity, you want to think about building momentum so that when you do get the opportunity, you seize that moment and make the most of it. And then also you might find yourself in a scenario of having desire and having an opportunity, and it's the ability that comes into question. And this is really where a lot of us find ourselves when we're going through college, when we're getting a master's degree, when we're pursuing opportunities that we aren't quite sure if the ability is there. It's not known to us. Is a test. And this is, again, this is an opportunity for you to figure out, can I accomplish this? Okay, so within the test itself, you'll find this even in the most perfect job. And honestly, in those perfect jobs, you're going to have to test yourself. That's where you get better, when you rise up to the challenge and see, can I do this? And in that process, find out that you can or that you couldn't, and then you take away from that a way of getting better. So here, the test, again, ability isn't apparent, could be present. You're moving into the unknown. Yes, I have daughters, and I did use Elsa here, but it's a fitting analogy because going into the unknown is obviously something that can have a lot of fear and trepidation that accompanies it. And not knowing if you're going to be up to the challenge is a very intimidating place to find yourself. And yet, being able to rise to the occasion and accomplish what you need to accomplish can be very, very satisfying and rewarding. And that's what makes you, in the end, stronger. And in the end, better suited for what you're doing. So I do want to take a moment to also talk about measuring success during a test, during that time, that scenario where you find yourself being tested. So you can look at measuring success in a way that is pass-fail. It's either all or nothing. I either failed or I succeeded. And maybe there are circumstances where that is the truth, that it is as simple as pass-fail. But in most cases, it's more A to F kind of grading system, if you will, where there are increments in which you can see where you did things well, where you could have done better perhaps, and where you didn't fail, but you weren't excellent either. And then figuring out how to do better next time. And it's really, I think measuring success really comes back to the way you learn from that experience too, because there's learning nothing versus learning something. And in the test, you can learn nothing and choose to sort of be defeated and move on, or you can learn something from it, see what good can be gleaned from a test that you don't do well at, or even the test that you do well at. Why did you do well? What was it that you did leading up to that moment that helped you succeed? So being very receptive to the experience and reflective about that experience is really key. And evaluating failure is also going to be important, because if failure is happening, is this a dead end for you now? Is this an opportunity for you to stop and just sit down and be like, okay, well, that was nothing. This is a dead end. I got nowhere to go. Or is it a fork in the road? So it may seem as though it's a dead end, but if you look around, there are other opportunities, and this dead end could indeed be a change in direction that needs to occur anyway. And so being able to evaluate your current circumstance, looking to see what else you could learn from this moment, besides the fact that, well, I didn't meet up to my own expectations or expectations of others, but I can indeed move beyond this moment. This is an opportunity for me to change direction in a way that is positive for me and positive for others as well. And the stumbling block versus stepping stone as well. This is, along your path, you're going to find that there are obstacles, and these obstacles can be stumbling blocks or stepping stones. So is it something that is there that you're going to continue to find to be a stumbling block, or is it something that you can use as a stepping stone into another opportunity, or to progress on further down that path? So are these challenges opportunities for failure? Yes, but they're also opportunities for success. And that success is not defined simply by whether you received an A or not. It's also defined by how you rose to the occasion and what you've learned from it. So think about the test that you have in your own life. And now let's think about, if we have all three present, if all three components, ability, desire, and opportunity, are all present in our scenario, then what we have is destiny. And I know it's a huge word, it's a big word. And I'm not here to debate philosophically on if destiny is a real thing or not. But what this really is about is when these three align, you have work that feels as though it was purpose for you. These, all of a sudden you want to do something. You can do this and you do it well. And you have the opportunity to do it. And in those moments, you're like, this is it. You know, it's a personal and professional satisfaction that you find in the work that you're doing. And in these moments of this intersecting sense of fulfillment, the work can feel as though it were set apart for you because it's so personal at that moment. And yet it's also within this professional, vocational desire and ability of yours that it just seems like this is the work that I want to do. And it's not work that leaves you sort of wanting more because it was not enough. It didn't meet your expectations, or it didn't, it didn't really use your abilities, or it didn't meet your desires. No, it absolutely required your ability. It absolutely met your desires, and you had the opportunity to do it. And all of a sudden, this is work that you feel really good about. It leaves you with this impression of work that was made for you. And that's the kind of moments that you want to create. Now, every job, again, every career path that you were to choose, every career that you could be in, regardless of that job, is going to have opportunity, or is going to move through these various scenarios. But you definitely want to find a way to place these types of moments in your job more so than some of these others. Certainly you want to feel like this is work that you were intended to do and made to do, and that it's really suited for you. Now, that said, there are things that you will want to do, some certain desires that you may have that don't fit into a professional aspiration of yours. And that's totally fine as well. I'm not trying to say here that with the idea of personal and professional satisfaction and this idea of destiny, that your work always has to be rewarding, and it always has to be leaving you with this sense of great satisfaction and you know, sort of a great sense of awe or something along those lines. It's not the intention here at all. It's really about finding ways to make work as enjoyable and as satisfying as possible for you. But in the event that you have things that you still want to do outside of your professional aspirations, or circumstances being what they are, maybe the things that you really do enjoy doing just don't pay the bills the way you want them to pay, or they don't allow for you to have the same sort of opportunity as something else, then you find ways to still keep those things in your lives that really do offer some sort of level of satisfaction. Maybe instead of vocational satisfaction, it's avocational. It's a hobby, or it's a way of an outlet for you outside of work to continue to engage with that part of your personality and that part of yourself that wants to do this sort of work, and yet it can't find the opportunity to do that in your professional life. So there are ways in which you can certainly make the best of whatever circumstances you find yourself. But when you have the choice, and when you're trying to create a career path for yourself and trailblaze down that path perhaps, or move through that path in a way that is you know, guided and assisted by others that have come before you, or those there that to help you along the way, when you have that kind of choice and that kind of opportunity, then certainly you want to try and create a job, or find a job or an opportunity that really does feel like is something deeply satisfying to you. So let's talk about some resources that help you along the way. I do want to take a minute though. I just want to pause. I want you to have the opportunity to think about, what does that look like? What does destiny look like for you? And again, I know it's a big word, but I want you to think about what are the abilities and the desires and the opportunities that you talked about beforehand, that we listed beforehand. What are those? And do you, can you see those coming together in the current path, along the current path that you're on? Or can you picture a path where those things can come together? And so you do get this sense of sort of destiny about it, sort of this bigness about it, where it is satisfying on a level that is deep, and that goes beyond just a paycheck, for example. So I want to take just a moment before we jump into resources. I do want to take just a moment for you to think about that. All right, I want to go ahead and move into resources so that as you think about the path you're on and where you want to go, where you want to ultimately end up in your career, there are resources available to you to help you along the way. And I want to touch on some of those. Coaching is a resource available to you. That coaching is one-on-one coaching at the Career Center. We offer one-on-one career coaching for all of our students. And we have a liaison model at the Career Center. So our majors are divvied out to each career coach, and we meet with students based on their major. It allows us to be a little bit more specialized and individualized in the way we approach our coaching and the way we can point students toward the correct resources, the appropriate resources that help them on their journey. We also, in that coaching, offer the opportunity for students to take a few assessments. One of those assessments is Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. This assessment is designed to help students really learn more about themselves as well as others. And it's about appreciating what makes you you and the differences that are you, as well as the differences in others. So there's an appreciation of individual differences and the value that comes with being able to engage with the world in a different way. And there are personality types that it breaks you into based on your assessment results. And then we can take that beyond just looking holistically at your personality. We can look at the occupational trends specific to your type, as well as the strengths and challenges that your type will find that as it moves through work. And so this can be very helpful in providing you with lots of good information specific to you and your personality type. There's also the strong interest inventory. That's another assessment that we offer. This provides you insight on your interests as well as careers related to those interests. It's not measuring ability. It's not measuring aptitude. It's just looking at your interest. And so it does a really good job of suggesting, hey, these might be things you're interested in, as well as these are people, professionals of similar interest to you, that these are opportunities that they're engaged in. And so it can provide you a lot of great information about what interests, how your interests align with opportunities out there in the working world, and what you need to do in order to become this type of working professional. Both of these assessments are available to you. For these two assessments, you would need to meet with us initially for a major and career exploration appointment, and we could talk through some general coaching initially and just kind of figure out, hey, so where are you at on your journey? Are you feeling good about your career path, or maybe considering changing directions of your career path? Maybe as a result, maybe changing a major, or maybe you're open to a certain type of work or within a certain industry or sector of business, or maybe it's a little vague and you want a little bit more definition and refine those interests, refine your options as a result. Both of these are great at doing that. And in that coaching appointment, we would talk about some of the things that you could do to do that, and then also give you access to take one of these assessments, or both of them. If you ended up deciding to, you could take both, but we would do that one at a time. And with that access, you would then complete the assessment and then come back to us so that we could help you interpret those results, and you could keep those results and take them with you so that you can always have a reference for those. Again, those are really good tools for helping you in terms of getting in terms of getting good information. So then you also have online resources like Focus 2. So Focus 2 also provides you the opportunity to gain some valuable insight through assessments. There are 5 assessments offered in Focus 2. These are readily available to you to use because you can log on to Handshake and then find under our resources the Focus 2 article, click on it, and then within there you can find a link as well as directions of how to create your Focus 2 platform or account and gain access to 5 assessments that look at work interest, personality, they look at how you would like to spend leisure time, as well as what you value, and then also your skills. And so out of those 5 assessments, it will combine the results, you can combine those, and then it will suggest career opportunities and jobs, occupations out there that might align with those assessment results. And so it can provide you a lot of great information. And that is something that you can access right now. If you go to Handshake and look under resources, you can find Focus 2 and gain access to it. Take those assessments, and they are matched. Also, the Focus 2 will match your results to majors that are our majors, Loyola's majors. And then the career options and the occupations that it suggests are all coming from the U.S. Department of Labor. And so there's thousands of jobs, 1,000+ jobs out there that it will connect you with based on those. Well, it will from those connect you with those that are most interest to you, relevant to your results. And then there's also what can I do with this major, which is a large database essentially of majors out there that you can get this both from our website as well as Handshake. You can get access to what can I do with this major. You click on that and take a look and see what are the things that you can do with the major that you've selected or that you intend to change to potentially, or that you have selected and that you're moving through and now trying to determine what is next. And so you can click on what can I do with this major in Handshake or on our website, get access to that database and see what are the opportunities that are out there for this major. And then additional resources, there's something called an informational interview we encourage students to do. These are intentional conversations with professionals out there in the working world, doing things that you're doing, wanting to do, that is, and you sit down with them and you ask them very intentional questions, specific questions about how they got to where they are and what advice they would give you in achieving that same level of success. What are some things that they would encourage you to do, opportunities to take advantage of, or challenges to be prepared for. And then there's also experiential opportunities, and this comes in the form of internships, volunteering, service learning, or coursework. Getting a chance to intern or take a part-time job even, or volunteer with an organization or with in the type of work that you want to do, gives you a chance to experience firsthand, is this stuff that is meeting the ability, desire, and opportunity equation? Does it feel like I am going to be deeply satisfied by this kind of work? Or if I want to do this kind of work, what are the abilities I need to work on? What are the, maybe through that experience you learn, I don't have a desire to do this work and maybe I should shift my focus elsewhere. Or I do like this work. These are the things about this type of work I don't like. How can I move toward the things that I do like more so? And you can get that through internship opportunities, volunteering, service learning. And then coursework is also taking a class before you pursue a change in major, or before you pursue a certain area within the career path or career field that you've chosen. Taking a class specific to that helps you get an idea for whether or not that subject is really, that content and that material is something that you really want to spend your time with. And so these are great opportunities for you. And then also journaling. So writing, reflecting, and thinking critically about the type of work that interests you and why. And so being intentional about capturing your thoughts and really working through those to figure out, why do I want to do this kind of work? What's the type of work I want to do and why? And then as well as what are the steps that you have taken and or should take to accomplish such work. So that helps you, again, capture the thoughts as well as make a plan. And that's really important in this process. As you pursue opportunities, and as you are moving along your career path, being intentional is going to be very important. It doesn't mean that you have to have everything set in stone, because nothing really ever goes completely according to plan, but it is good to at least have a good idea of what the next steps are. And so journaling can help with that, as well as some of these other resources can help you with gathering information, as well as learning more about what the next steps could be and should be. All right, so a lot of information. I try to move through it, not too fast, but fast enough. This is a time for Q&A. So if you have questions, I would love to try and answer those questions. This is the part where if I were in person, I would just be like, oh, you got a question? I can see it on your face. I can't see any faces right now. Maybe there's a question.
Yeah, there is a question in the chat. Is there a point when it's, quote, too late to change your major?
That's a good question. So obviously early on in college, there's statistically the chances of somebody changing their major are pretty high. And that's because you realize early, okay, maybe I should change this and do something differently, and I have time to do it. And then the more you progress into something, the more you feel committed, and sort of inertia takes over, and you're like, oh, it's too late for me to change now. And I would suggest that it's never too late to change a major. There are certain expectations that will need to change, though, in terms of what you're going to expect in terms of how soon can I get out of college, because if you are changing your major from one field to another field, then it's going to most likely require you to stick around another year or so. So that would be something you certainly want to be mindful of, is like, okay, if I'm going to do this, how much more time am I going to have to invest in this, as well as how much more money am I going to have to invest in this. But I wouldn't let that keep me from changing my major. I would certainly allow myself to consider it and actually change my major if I thought that, yeah, I'm definitely headed the wrong direction. So what if I'm in my, my final or not final semester? I mean, even then, I guess it's still worth the consideration. But what if I'm in my spring junior semester, right? And so I've gotten a lot of major classes in, and now I'm thinking about changing, and it's going to at least cost me another year of time and the money that will go into investing in that year as well. Well, you are saving yourself a lot of time on the long run. If you look at how satisfied you could be doing something else, and how much better suited you are for that type of work, and how much more satisfying as a result it will be to you and to others, because the work that you do, even though it will be personally satisfying, it's also needs to be taken into consideration as to what impact you'll have on others as well. And so if you can see yourself doing something that is more satisfying for you and better suited to your abilities and your desires, and there's opportunity to do it, and it's out there helping others as well in a way that you feel good about, then yes, you can change your major, and it's never too late. But certainly you want to talk those kind of things through with your academic advising folks, your faculty advisor, as well as us. We would love to talk to you about those kind of things and see what options are there for you.
And along those lines, could you also talk a little bit about the opportunity to change direction without necessarily changing major, and kind of how you would think that through?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point too. So in some cases, and this, you'll find that people will graduate and they will realize, I don't want to continue to do this. This is very common, actually, that somebody would find themselves in a type of work that isn't as satisfying. And for whatever reason, they stuck it out with this major, and they got into the line of work thinking, well, I can just push through it and I'll actually find something I like. And then they don't. And then they have to change their career path. Well, there's an opportunity for you, even as a student, without changing your career path, to still change your direction and nudge yourself toward a certain type of work. And you can get that in some of those experiential opportunities we were talking about. You can look at internship opportunities, you can look at volunteering opportunities, you can look at part-time employment opportunities, and find a way to kind of create a niche that gives you an opportunity to move sort of type of work that is more satisfying than what may be typical for your major. Similarly, if you did graduate with something that you end up finding that particular field isn't as satisfying as you had hoped it would be, you can shift in a similar way into a career that that you may find more satisfying. And sometimes that might require you go to grad school in order to make that shift, or it could be that it's just one of those things that you can do through the type of employment that you can gain, or those experiential opportunities that you can gain elsewhere. So, but as a student, yeah, you can certainly find a way of committing yourself to a certain type of work or to a certain direction along a certain trajectory along your career path that that allows you to do things outside of class without having to change your major.
Great. And then there's another question here. Is the Career Center offering one-on-one coaching now? If so, how does it work? Is it over Zoom? And how do we request an appointment?
Yes, great question. So we're continuing to meet with students through one-on-one coaching through Zoom. And so you can go into Handshake and schedule an opportunity to meet with us, schedule an appointment to meet with us. That those are defaulting to video conferencing, video calls through Zoom. But you can also take advantage of virtual walk-ins. We also use Zoom to facilitate that every Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. You have the opportunity to drop in, and you can do that. You can find the link on our website. You can also, you've probably received an email from your career coach that is also talking about virtual walk-ins, that's providing that link as well. But yeah, you still meet with us, and we'd love to meet with you. If for some reason you can't do a video call, we also can do phone calls as well. And then you can always reach out to your career coach via email, and you can find out more about your career coach, who your career coach is, if you're not certain, by going to our website as well, which you can go to the Loyola site and simply search the Career Center, and it'll pull up our page. We're under the Student Success Center at Loyola, and so if you are on the Student Success website, you can also find career service or career development that way too.
I just entered the link for scheduling appointments, and
Thank you so
then
much.
also in the chat box we have the direct link to the Career Center webpage where you can access more information about walk-ins and about scheduling appointments and things like that. So
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. Are there any other questions? Well, again, really, the exploration that we find ourselves in is a lifelong exploration, to be honest. We are always, even once you find a career path that you enjoy being on and that you want to stay on, you're always finding yourself moving through these various scenarios where an opportunity or a scenario that is either a task, an opportunity to build momentum, it's a test, or it does feel like, yes, this is work that I am made for. This is stuff that really does speak to me and that I enjoy. And regardless of where you're at in that process now, as you continue to search and explore, we would love to be able to help you as career coaches and as a career center. So please feel free to take advantage of the resources that are listed in this presentation, including those appointments. And then if you have questions that come up, you can feel free to email us. You can email the Career Center inbox, which is career@loyola.edu. That's career@loyola.edu. Or you can email me as well, and I'd be glad to help you. Any other questions? I saw something pop up, but that may be.
yeah, in the chat box I've entered Brent's email address as
Thank
well
you.
as the general career email address. But if you do have other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box.
Excellent. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, I'll give it a couple more minutes. But if there are no more questions, again, feel free to take advantage of these resources that have been listed. Continue to think about where you find yourself as you explore what's next, and think about the context, the framework of these scenarios, the exploration equation, and how it can help you make the decision that you need to make. I also take a second to thank Jill for keeping track of that chat box, and for putting those links in there. It's very helpful. All right. Well, I think we're going to stop. Again, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.